So it looks like GameSir came out with another T4 edition. This is the Cyclone. This is the wireless version for $50. Is this better than the T4 itself? And how in the world was I able to get this to work wirelessly on the Xbox? All right, guys, so this is the brick adapter. This thing is like a $50 adapter. This is a little bit of a pricier adapter than most for the Xbox, but it's for a good reason. This literally is legit. Like, I took the dongle up to it for the Cyclone and just connected it to the dongle, and I was able to use this on Xbox wirelessly with no issues at all. So I'm going to link this below. I'm actually going to be doing a full review on this, but if you want to go ahead and buy it, this works for like well over 100 different style controllers that you can play on any other console, on the Xbox itself, PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, all kind of controllers. So definitely check it out. It's definitely worth checking out, in my personal opinion. If you want to know if a specific controller works for it, drop it in the comments below. If I have that controller, like the 8-Bit Do Ultimate, I got so many controllers, I haven't tried a lot of them. So if you want to see if it does work, wired or wirelessly, because you can use these with wired controllers as well, let me know in the comments below. I'll test it and let you know as well. Okay, so we're looking at the differences between the controllers. Very first thing first is the Cyclone and the Cyclone Pro 4, or the T4 Cyclone Pro, whatever, is white and black. Those are the only colors you can actually get on those controllers. I kind of hope they come out with an upgrade where we can get it white in the Pro if we want one, or the black in the non-Pro if we want one, you know, just to kind of, I see what they did there. They're just kind of cutting costs because they're mass producing these things so that they can get them out faster, because a lot of people are buying these things up because, I mean, GameSir has just literally, honestly, just been the king when it comes to pro budget controllers right now. So this is why they did that. But I kind of wish they would have done it a little bit different. The XYBA is a Switch layout versus the Xbox layout. And then you have membrane versus macro, or macro. I don't know why it's macro. Micro switches that are in the controller itself. The Pro version, you have triggers, vibrators, vibrations, you know, whatever you want to call them nowadays, under the triggers themselves, and you don't have those underneath the non-Pro one. And then if you want the dongle, you have to buy the Pro version. If you don't buy the Pro version, you won't get the dongle. You have to buy this separately. And this is going to be better than Bluetooth when it comes to, well, it should be anyway. They've got to do the test here in a minute. But when it comes to latency and stuff, this ought to be better than Bluetooth itself. And then wired should be the best, as always. But those are the differences. Let's hop into some of the other stuff. So just to mention real quick, with the Nintendo Switch, this does actually wake up the Switch. I tested it a few times just to make sure. And yes, it does wake up the Nintendo Switch. So that's good. Connection wise and compatibility wise, this does have like the dongle that comes with it. It does connect Bluetooth. It does connect wired as well. You can use this on Nintendo Switch, your Android devices, your iPhone devices, anything that pretty much takes Bluetooth nowadays, this controller is going to connect to. Okay guys, so let's start with the XYBA on the controller itself. Well, these are tactile. They say that they are good for 5 million clicks, which is pretty good, right? Like, I don't have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is, well, they are very, well, let me show you. Let's get a good angle here. But right here, you can see how much I can play with it without me actuating it every time, which means there's a lot of travel between me pressing it and it actually being actuated on the controller itself. The buttons do not feel as good as like the T4 original. And what I mean is, these feel better. The traveling is a little bit better. Now I will say these are a lot looser, right? Like, you looking at these, you can see just how loose these are. But yeah, so the buttons are tactile. They're not loosey-goosey like the normal T4 or anything like that. But like I said, they do have a lot of traveling time. They don't feel as good as like the original T4 in my personal opinion. But yeah, I mean, they are what they are. I'm throwing it in there. So let's move on to another ratchet thing on this controller. My personal opinion is the D-pad. This thing is huge. Like, look at this thing. Like here, I'm going to control. The only thing I could do is compare it to the T4. I wasn't going to do that. Could probably make a video on it. But I mean, the T4 versus this, I mean, this is just way bigger. It sticks up so much that, I mean, yes, you can do roll-offs. There's no issues there. I did test this in Gamepad Tester for a little while, just doing roll-offs and stuff like that. But if you're going to do something like this, you might as well put a dome on it, in my personal opinion, and that way it felt better on the thumb itself. So yeah, I'm not big on the XYBA button on here or the D-pad itself. Not that it made me play bad or anything, because, you know, I suck at games anyways, but hey, they're there. Let's talk about the other actuation buttons on the front of the controller. The, you know, whatever these buttons are called nowadays, the capture button and the middle button right here. These feel fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're tactile feeling. They sound tactile and they feel good. The middle button right here is not. It's not. It doesn't feel cheap, personally. I feel like it feels a little better than your normal, like a cheap Xbox controller that's wired or something like this. It doesn't feel cheap like those. It feels like there's a little bit of more play with it. Now, I will say when it's pretty low down to the controller. So if you're going to use that, I know some people use these for actuation buttons nowadays. So if you are going to use that for something like that, just kind of be aware that, you know, you do have a little bit of it's pretty low. So you might have to make sure you run your thumb across it and actually press it in. I think it's fine personally, but I did want to throw that in there. But they feel much better than any other buttons on the front of the controller. Just gonna be real. Now on the bottom of the controller, you do have a button right here. You just don't have like a 3.5mm jack or anything like that, so no headphones can connect to this. But you do have your, this is your sync button. So this is if you're trying to connect to the dongle or the Bluetooth itself, you hold this button in right here, and then you'll start seeing it flash here after a few seconds rapidly like that. Either mode that you're in, you'll get this, and then you'll be able to connect it to whatever controller you want. All right, let's talk about the joysticks for a minute here. So first things first with the joysticks is, well, they are Hall effects, which that's a good thing. I'm happy to see that. That's where the beginning problems start with this particular controller. The other thing is, well, there's no anti-friction rings on the freaking controller itself, and it's got this hard plastic like the G7 or the G7 SE without the anti-friction rings, so you can feel it grinding up against it when you're going around in circles on the controller, and it just doesn't make it for a pleasant playing experience when you're having that kind of an issue. The other issue I have with these sticks is going to be they're super loose. Like they're not loose like the touch, but a lot of people ask me nowadays, how tight are the sticks? Well, these are not tight like Xbox sticks. These are looser than Xbox sticks. As soon as I started playing with it, I could very easily touch it, barely touching it. Like I was able to move this stick around. I run a Gamepad Tester, so we're gonna test these controllers out right now. I'm gonna click on it, and then I should be able to move these around, and they should snap back to 0 every single time. And then for the sticks, we're gonna do, these should be super low because they're Hall effects. And they're 1%, I'll be honest. There it goes. Oh, that's a little bit better. So they're 1%, and then all the other buttons, they're gonna work as normal and stuff. So, there's no need to go in and all that. All right, let's do the dongle and see what kind of testing we're gonna get here. We should be getting, I would assume 250 with the dongle. We're gonna find out. We are at a 178 pooling rate. That's not very good, to be honest with you. A lot of 11s, a bunch of 7s, some 13s, 15s in there and stuff. Let's hit it again just to kind of make sure here. Yeah, we're kind of around that 180, 175 range. So that's the dongle is gonna be, let's just say you're gonna pretty much be, it's very inconsistent. I don't like it. It's not consistent. The average, look at the max between the match and, that's just not very, very good. A lot of outliners there too. Take these outliners out, maybe it's better, but there's a lot of outliners there, to be 100% honest with you. And the, this looks pretty good for the most part, in my personal opinion. Wired is definitely going to be the way to go on this controller, which is very unfortunate since one of the selling features on this controller when it comes to buying this over the T4 wired is going to be wireless. But if the wireless isn't very consistent, is it really worth the money at that point? You know what I mean? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. Let's talk about the triggers and the bumpers on the controller for a second. So the bumpers, they feel pretty good. There's no issues with them there. They're pretty normal. They have the stipple at the bottom, or, gripple if you've been here a while. And, well, they're not all the way around. This is typical on the GameSir controllers, to be honest with you. And I think it's kind of stupid, personally, that they don't put the stipple up here as well. They just put it right there. I get what they're trying to do, saying, hey, you could just rest your fingers here. But I'm going to rest my fingers buttons here most of the time. So I'd rather have it there, just being real, you know? So anyhow, they feel fine. They're not nothing special about it or anything. And the triggers themselves, they have the stipple all the way down right here, which is better. We'll see what we can do in the app, if we can turn the dead zone down for them and stuff, which I believe you can. Yes, you can turn the dead zone down for it now that I'm thinking about it off the top of my head. And then you see these little cutouts right here. This is actually for a phone holder that you can buy on their website itself, you know, because this is also made for phones. So if you want to connect it to your phone to play like Game Pass for Xbox or just play games on your phone, you're going to be able to, and you can just have a little holder there and stuff. It's like 10 bucks on their website. I'll link it below so you guys can check that out if you're into all that. Of course, we have the two buttons on the back of the controller itself too. And well, I mean, they're there. They feel okay. They're nice and clicky, kind of. They do sound different. I don't really care about all that, but they do sound different if you care about all that for some reason. I have a headset on when I'm playing, so I don't ever hear them. All right, so the other button on here is the front. Is this M button, the memory button, whatever you want to call it. That's what they call it. There's several functions you can do with this. One is going to be set up the back button. So how you do that is you hold the M button and then hit one of the back buttons at the same time. You'll get it blinking like this, and then you just simply hit whatever button you want to associate with it, and then hit the back button again, and you're good to go. You do that with the other side. Black, and then boom, you're good to go. And if you don't want nothing set to that button after you've programmed it, hit the buttons again, and then just hit the back button, and you're good to go. After you hit both buttons, instead of hitting another button, just hit the back button again, and you're good to go. But in any case, let's talk about the ergonomics of the controller and the buttons being placed and stuff. They feel great, the ergonomically speaking wise. My middle fingers fit right, just perfect on the controller. You do have the stipple that goes all the way around this controller in particular, all the way up top here and stuff, which is just so irritating that they stopped here. And they could have just went up, just go ahead and gone on down. You know what I mean? Like just keep on going. Just keep on swimming. Just keep swimming. I mean, what are you doing? Anyways, moving on. But yeah, the stipple on the controller itself feels pretty good. Not super aggressive, but not super light either. Pretty good. I like it. Personally, I think the controller feels super comfortable, as these controllers do nowadays. Let's be real for a second. Another thing you can do with this is control your vibrator motors, rumble packs, whatever you want to call them nowadays. So you hold the M button, and if you press left or right on the D-pad, you're going to activate, in the Pro controller, you're going to activate the motors here. And if you press up and down on the D-pad, you're going to activate the motors here. And if you press right, it's going to turn it down, and if you press left, it'll turn it up. So the left and right are actually for the triggers. I was wrong. And then the up and down will be for the base of your palms, which is turning it all the way up. All right, guys. So the other button on here, the other thing this does is do turbo mode as well. So if you want to use turbo on the controller for like a non-shooter game or a non-online multiplayer game, don't be that guy or gal. Then all you have to do is super simple. Actually, this is one of the easier ways to set this up. Is you hold M button and hit whatever button you want. So if you want it to that, you see it blink like that, and therefore it's on the slowest mode. If you wanted to turn it up a speed, you hit it again, you'll see it flash a few more times. You're in the middle mode, and if you hit it again, you'll see it's flashing super fast, which means you're in the fastest mode. And then if you hit it again, you'll be back in normal mode. Now you can set it up to where you have multiple buttons set up. So I have the X, Y, and B set up, and if I want to clear them all at once, I would just simply double tap the M button, and they are all back to normal. Super simple, easy to do. Don't have to worry about the app on the phone. There's a way to calibrate all this and doing all that and everything. I'm not going to do all that. I will say though, if you want to calibrate it for the gyroscope, if you need to, you would just simply hold these two buttons down at the same time. This will start flashing. Once it's flashing that color, you just let it go through its modes until it's done, and it will stop blinking and go back to the color it was in, showing that it's been calibrated for gyroscope. And yes, it does work. All right, guys, so when it comes to the app on the controller itself, I have Android, so I went to go download the app to Android itself, and I couldn't. It kept saying it's not there, it wasn't available. I reached out to GameSir themselves to ask about this. It took a few days to get back. While I was waiting for them to get back, I did notice there was an APK file that could be downloaded through, was it APK or AKP? Whatever the one, I'm talking about. You can download third-party apps and stuff like that on their website, might I add. So I went ahead and started downloading it. I got all kind of like warnings on my phone about that app. So after I downloaded it, I actually deleted it because it kind of made me worry. Like I didn't see that many warnings before. I'm popping some of them up here on the screen so you guys can see it and stuff. But as soon as I deleted the app, go figure, I got an email back from them themselves about the app and why it's not on Google Play Store anymore. So let me read that to you guys real quick. The GameSir World app has been removed from the shelves due to privacy issues. What? It will take some time to be repaired. You can directly combine the buttons to switch functions according to the instructions. What? So Google Play removed your app because there's issues with it, but yet, get this, I can't find anything on it anywhere online, which means they haven't said anything about it. GameSir, what are you doing? You have to tell your users that there is an app that has issues with it privacy-wise. You can't just not saying that they didn't do an update, however long it's going to take. When they tell me, I did ask them how long it's going to take to do this. If they've told me, I've posted here. If not, I'll let you know. They didn't tell me yet. Yeah, that's a huge issue in my personal opinion. How many people have bought the controller, have already downloaded the app, and have the app on their phone? Now, listen, I'm not a conspiracy theory at heart, but when you have an issue with an app with privacy issue data things and going on, and then you don't tell your customers about it, that's an issue. GameSir, you need to make that right. Go ahead and put that memo out there by tweet. Something on your website would be efficient, honestly. Something, but nothing. The only reason why I know is because I emailed and I asked about it. It's kind of not good in my personal opinion. Not a good look at all. I know you're more of a newer company, but this is a good learning experience for you. Learn, step up, fix your mistakes. With all that being said though, you can't do everything on the controller without the app. You cannot mess with the triggers on the controller itself without the app. You can't do certain other things, I believe, on here as well. You do most of things on the controller itself. I showed you through some of the things on the controller, but we want the hair triggers. Can't do that without the app. So what's going on? With all that being said, I want to talk about my final thoughts on the controller. I'm kind of re-recording this here on the go. So my biggest thing here is being honest about it and stuff and how I feel about the controller at the end of the day. And I put the information out there for you guys and gals to take, and then you do what you think is the best. So this is how I personally feel about the controller. I don't like it. I think for $50, they cut a lot of corners on this controller just to make it wireless. The 2.4 dongle versus Bluetooth, there's not a huge difference there when latency issues. They're kind of all over the place both ways. The best way to run this controller is going to be wired. And at that point, you might as well just buy this controller. It's cheaper. You get 1,000 hertz. It's got a better looking body in my personal opinion. And it has RGB lights. And the app is on the freaking PC. By the way, they're supposed to be putting the app on the PC for this eventually. But I get 1,000 hertz with this controller. Did I mention it? I don't know. I'll mention it again. Now, if you're like, oh, James, I want a wireless controller, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then we'll go buy the controller. Or if you want a wireless controller and you're not worried about getting sweating hard and stuff, it's not that I don't like the controller. I just think that they did a worse job than they did on their previous controllers. The GameSir G7, the GameSir G7 SE, and the GameSir T4, Khaled, or however you say it, are just built better. The only bad thing about the T4, in my personal opinion, are the looseness of the XYBA button. These XYBA buttons, they're a little loose, and they take a longer to actuate than the T4 did itself. And the D-pad on here is just worse, in my personal opinion, than the T4 itself was as well. So take it for what it's worth. GameSir is literally the king when it comes to their G7, G7 SE, and the T4 itself. They've come in like a wrecking ball. I think, though, they're just trying to put too many controllers on the market at too much of a speed or too fast or whatever, and they're starting to cut corners where they shouldn't be cutting corners. So I give you guys the information. Let me know what you think of the controller in comments below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace and love.